Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Arbor Adventures. And we are now starting session 12 of Arbor Adventures, and we start in Neverwinter, and Sun Elf Rogue Assassin Duolos has had the conversation with his brother. His brother never found out that he had Thove, the Hate of Vecna, on him. His brother needed two things to complete his plan to defeat Vecna. He needed Thove, and he needed a champion. And the reality is, Dolos kind of pushed him back from all those things. He kept Thove from him, and and whenever Farrowin found a champion that could be used to defeat Vecna by having their life taken first and then them going into a battle of wills with Vecna, he always discouraged it, right? Like he literally made deals with him to not use this person or that person. And Farrowin finally is like, you're not committed to this quest, right? They parted with a little bit of frustration between the two, but I would not say animosity, right? And his brother Farrowin went back to Candlekeep to kind of reconnoiter and then launch out again to complete the quest, right? But that quest of defeating Vecna it's always weird saying I'm going to defeat Vecna permanently because Vecna had just been defeated, right? But already, through Thove, the Hate of Vecna, he was being fed souls, right? And it might have been 10 years, might have been 100 years, might have been 1,000 years before he was a threat again, but he was on his way, right? And the reality is, Dolos, every life he took with the Hate of Vecna, fed Vecna a soul, right? And really, Dolos, was bound in a very unhealthy way to that blade, right? Although it is arguable that the lives he took were in defense and for the sake of good, right? Very fascinating. So, so at this point, Vecna, actually, Dolos goes back to Jesp's manse, and Dolos realizes that Jesp is far more than a garment merchant at this point. He has carriers coming and going, and it's very clear that Jesp is getting geared up to provision any and all war efforts, right? And he is making a ton of money off of his relationship with Dolos. And Dolos appears to be a catalyst, right? Everywhere he goes turns into death and gold, right? Like that really, that's kind of what Dolos was, a courier of death and gold, right? Like everywhere he went, death and gold followed, right? Very, very fascinating and a really interesting character. So all this is happening, right? And then finally, we reach a point where, he needs to so Dolos is then comes back from his walk with his brother, and he sleeps because there's been a ton happening, and he gets up at 11 a.m. and one of Jeff's servants comes in and says, your meeting with Shrem is at 1 p.m. right? And so Dolos is like, okay, I'm gonna learn what Shrem is gonna do. Is he gonna spark a war that's gonna embroil war between dwarves and humans across all of Faerun? Or is he going to give this up and go back to Mount Hope now and begin forging weapons again, right? Forging the finest tools and weapons that can be found anywhere on Faerun, right? So he's waiting to hear this, right? Well, while he's waiting, Erosarn, the third daughter of the Enclave of Galena, comes to see him, knocks on his door, comes in, sits down on his bed, and then, pats the bed for him to sit down as well. And she said, we need to have a conversation, right? And he's like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And she says, okay, listen, and she says, thank you to Dolos, right? She's like, I came here, I didn't know anyone, you helped me on the first day, I got to, scritch Owie under the chin many times, and I owe you for keeping me safe and for providing hospitality and making certain that I was 100% able to fulfill the request of my father. So the request of my father was that we fulfill our promise to Mount Hope now, which is 4 centuries old, and we've done that. I did that, right? I fought on the front lines with Forge Lord Tram. I killed 6 of the woodcutters, and I think and I know you killed woodcutters, and Forge Lord Tram killed woodcutters, and Grax killed woodcutters, right? We are bonded in we are truly bonded in war, right, at this point, right? But here's the thing. And then she counts it down and she says, okay, here's what I understand about the war in Phandalin, the little spark, because what's about to happen, if Forge Lord Tram goes to war, it's on, it is going to be, there's going to be a lot of death. The deaths are not going to be counted in tens. The deaths are going to be counted in hundreds for the first month or two, and in the thousands in the second and third month, right? 10,000s, hundreds of thousands could die in this war, right? And here's my, and why? Why did all this happen? Well, from all the evidence I've been able to collect, the dwarven miners of Phandalin were incredibly disrespectful to the woodcutters. They cut them, and the woodcutters had served them with beams for their mines for decades, actually over 100 years. And then when the dwarves found a way to use stone arches to buttress their mines, they cut the woodcutters out with no warning, and they insulted them, right? And they really broke a strong economic relationship with derision and ridicule, right? Now, Woodcutter Demeth responded to that by killing 54 dwarves, by drowning them in their own mine with a rerouted river that the woodcutters rerouted using dams, right? That is ridicule and derision, which is legitimately wrong, with 54 deaths. That's not right, right? So both sides were deeply at fault, right? And it's really difficult to say who anyone should ally with in that situation. But listen to me. But then Erosarn, this female elf noble, she says, listen, here's the plan, right? The human woodcutters and the dwarven miners, they've gone about their business, and and things are messed up, and we're on the edge of war in Faerun. But listen, I am a skilled warrior. You are a skilled warrior. Grax is a skilled warrior, right? Notice she does not mention Faerun, who runs every time there's a combat, because he needs to. He's not trained, right? And then finally, she says, let's take Phandalin. Let's take it from the dwarves and the woodcutters. Let's go to war with both. So how would we do that, right? So first of all, you, me, and Grax are a force to ourselves, right? But we'll need an army. But we can get that army with the Mayan Shark's Horde. There's so much gold there, so many magic items there, so many ancient relics there, that we can actually fund our own army. And then we can take Phandalin. And then both of those groups will be pushed out of Phandalin, and I will start an elven city open to all species. You, me, and Grax will open up, and actually she says you and me will, Grax will assist, but she's saying you and I will lead this new city, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to take over the city, and then this city will be for all species, right? But Lord Dagult Neverember Lord Dagult Neverember is human, and Waterdeep's leader, Open Mass Lord, is also human, right? And so, and the reality is, there really hasn't been a dwarven city because most of the dwarves stay in enclaves, but we will have an open city where all species are welcome. And I think this is needed, right? There's been a lot of wealth that came out of Neverwinter, a lot of wealth that came out of Waterdeep, but the reality is Phandalin is the match that is about to strike a war that will go across all of Faerun, and we could stop that by you and me taking over, right? So please join me as leader, and the two of us together will lead this new city in that we will build over Phandalin, right? And she said, we will have the mines, we will have the woods, everything will be ours, right? And so Dolos, just shakes his head, and he's like, no. He says, I've been, being pulled into this war again and again and again by people who think that they have the right to rule. And Erosarn says, I do have the right to rule, right? I was pushed, I've been passed over by my father. I was sent because I'm the third daughter, right? And I do have the power and ability and right to rule, and I want to rule on my own. You and I have the weapons, we have the fighting ability, we have the leadership ability, and we have the Dragon Horde, and we can turn that Dragon Horde into an army that can take over Phandalin, and we can push back both the woodcutters and the dwarven miners, and Phandalin can be ours. Please join me. And Dolos is like, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to join you. And so then Erosarn says, I cannot fault you, and I can do nothing but thank you because I owe you tremendously, right, for everything you've done for me. So, I thank you. I really wish you had said yes, but I'm sorry to do this to you. I'm going to go ask Grax if he will come with me, right? And so Dolos says, it just kind of shakes his head again. And then Erosarn leaves, and he gathers all his things, and he goes out for a walk because he realizes he is at this decision point, right? And he wants to wait for Shram to make a decision, but he knows Erosarn is not going to wait. She's going to ask Grax, and Grax and Erosarn could leave and bring their own army, but he absolutely needs time to think, and so he goes out for a walk. And that is where we're going to cut it off here. So everything you just heard is my humble opinion on the best parts of Arbor Adventures. The important part is where I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.